Hello, Be Awesome listeners. This is exciting time today. My first ever Zoom recorded podcast with a past guest who actually interviewed me, episode 32, friend and just awesome human, Les Trachtman. And Les, thanks for joining and thanks for helping me on my new journey of social distancing podcasting 101.
Well, thanks, Peach. And you remember, you'll never forget your first.
Yes, no, I never. Well, and there was the first experience with you was at Blue Angels, U.S. What was it? The U.S. Navy Naval College graduation, and it was fantastic with watching the Blue Angels fly over the river for about 40 minutes, and that's coming up in a month or so. So hopefully, this whole thing that we're dealing with lifts by then, and maybe I get the invite to be back out on the boat. That's hopeful and optimistic.
Well, the invite's not hopeful and optimistic. You got the invite. The question is whether it'll happen or not.
Yeah. So Les, I wanted to have you on the podcast for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, your company was doing some phenomenal things in revolutionizing the way that I saw medical imaging. And you were moving right along, growing pretty good. And this coronavirus hit. And instead of you guys going out and trying to sell more of your services, you're actually giving a lot of your services. So tell us a little bit about Purview, what you do, and also the offer that you're providing for medical providers.
Yeah, thanks. And thanks for having me on again. Purview is it's a fast growing health tech company. You'd probably put us in the category of telemedicine, based here in Annapolis, Maryland. Our business is one where we provide diagnostic services, make them available remotely to docs when they need them. That includes medical images, that includes other diagnostic information, pathology reports, test results, etc. The neat part about what we do is it's all done remotely. So it turns out in a time like this, where we have this social distancing, or as you've called it, medicine distancing or health distancing, most hospitals in the world today are trying to prevent people from visiting the hospital, whether they are visitors, guests of a patient, or even if they're patients themselves or doctors. They'd prefer, unless it is a critical situation where they have to see you, they'd prefer you not to be at the hospital. Hospitals are, they're congested, and they're also places where obviously viruses are present. So staying away is a good thing. And our solution happens to fit right into that. So a couple days ago, I was traveling, trying desperately to get back to the country before they closed the doors. And one of the things we thought of is we needed as a company to do something to help. So first thing we did was we looked into our bag of tricks and we said, one of the things we can do is we can enable medical images to be shared by patients, by doctors, by providers, any kind of health facility. And it would negate the need to either physically hand somebody a disc or see somebody in person. So we made the decision to make that service a pretty important part of our arsenal of what we sell. We decided to make that service free, and we did it. And it was received with just, I would say, it was a heartwarming reception from our perspective.
Where did you hear that reception from? Because I saw some pretty far away lands that you've already tapped into.
We did. So it came from everywhere, but most importantly at that time, it was coming from the real hotbeds. So we got some from Italy, some from Spain, some from state of Washington, and a few from New York, where people were simply reaching out and saying, this is great, need this, I'm glad you're doing it. We tried to make it as simple as possible. Our guys in the office rallied, came up with simple videos on how to do it so that anybody could do it without having to call us, contact us. Of course, we were there if they did. And they made it work. And they made it work in 24 hours from the time that I had this crazy idea to make it happen. So it was pretty neat.
Yeah, that is really neat. That is amazing. I'll tell you the reason why I really gravitated to your, first, the whole thing was on one of your LinkedIn posts that you said, hey, this offer is open to anyone and I shared it. And then last night, when I got the crazy idea to try to get you on this social distancing podcast, I was thinking about our son Chance broke his leg in January, just when the start of the coronavirus was happening, and we had to go to Children's Hospital in Boston a couple times. And one of the times we went in, we actually walked through the doors, and the police were right behind us and put us in a nobody in, nobody out. And the first thing I thought of, and this was early on in the coronavirus, it was the second week in February when this happened. And I'm like, oh my God, we're stuck here because of the coronavirus. Fortunately and unfortunately, there was a shooting at the hospital next door. So that's what the lockdown was for. But it posed that thought of, like, wouldn't it have been so much better if, we went from the x-ray to the next office to the next office, and, people were handing things off and then finally giving us the reading of the x-ray and saying, yeah, his leg is in fact broken. I'm sitting here saying, wouldn't that be a cool service for you to have, to minimize the number of touches, the number of people, especially in this time. And the x-rays aren't just for coronavirus tests. Let's be clear. This is x-rays on anything and everything.
That's absolutely true. We have facilities that have been using our product for oncology, for example, and they're saying the same thing, which is even our oncology patients, we'd like them not to be here unless they have to be, unless it's critical, because we don't want to subject them to the extra exposure to disease.
Right. And so you're offering this for free for anyone in the medical field. This is surely, like, first of all, I love wild, crazy ideas, but when you do it kind of in the selfless way of not knowing how long, what it's for, or how many people are going to be interested, you're taking a pretty good risk right now to make a difference. What's the less reason on this whole thing? What are you thinking about? You prepared to do the long haul, every doctor in the world?
Yeah. So that first offer that we just talked about, that's actually available to patients. So if a patient wants to just have an encounter with the doc and doesn't want to show up, they can send that. So for example, your son's x-ray, they could send that in advance to the doc.
Okay.
And the doc could look at it and say, okay, great. Why don't you go here to get treated, as opposed to coming into my hospital that could be infected. So that's one. But last night we actually made another offering. I was had one of these sleepless nights last night. They happen to occur a lot these days with all that's going on in the world. And what I realized is we had a few other offerings that also were potentially ways to save lives, keep docs from having to be in the hospital to do their diagnosis. So these are typically radiologists or subspecialists who read x-rays, CTs, MRs, things like that. And a lot of times they have to come into the hospital just to do those reads. But we have a system that enables them to do those reads remotely. In fact, they can do them anywhere, anytime, on any device, even a tablet or even a smartphone if they had to. So that's another product that we normally sell to the marketplace. It's actually our core product. We probably make more money off of that than any of our other products. And last night I called my operations guy and I said, look, here's what I'm thinking. I'd like to make this free also. And he kind of paused for a minute, and I thought he was going to tell me I was crazy. Well, probably I am crazy anyway, but he was just going to tell me that this was a nutty kind of thing to offer because it would really cut to the core of what we're trying to sell. And it was great because our guys are all thinking like this. And he said to me, well, he shares your name, Josh. I think you met him when you were here.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So Josh said to me, perfect. He said, this is exactly what we need to do. Our guys have some time on their hands. We're trying very hard not to have to lay off any employees or cut any hours or anything like that. Let's have them do something really useful. So last night we announced, and it actually came out in a note this morning to our marketplace, that we're going to offer that service for free as well. Wow. So I'll answer the question you raised with both of those in mind, which is, it's not really crazy. So one, if the world explodes and we end up with nothing when we're done, then we're not going to have a business anyway. And if we can contribute to expediting the process, helping doctors, helping patients, maybe be somebody that helps cut this a little bit shorter than it is, it will benefit us and it will benefit everybody. But I can tell you, we're not a big business. We're a small, fast-growing business. We chew through a lot of cash. If this thing goes on forever, we'll go along with it.
Yeah.
We'll be out the door, but you know what? We're going to die trying. And I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an optimist. There are bigger risks that I've taken in my life than this. We're going to take this one, and we come out the other end. I think we'll all be better for it.
You know, Les, that's one of the biggest reasons that attracted me to becoming friends with you and pursuing connecting with you on LinkedIn almost 2 years ago, is that mindset, which many folks don't have, which is, hey, if the ship's going down, I'm going down with it, which is that captain mentality. You know, with that optimism, and there's lots of folks that are on here that are listening to us that don't have that same optimism, or might not be the entrepreneurial spirit that they think what they need to do. You know, what kind of advice would you give people? What do you give your team? You know, I'm sure that no matter how great a job you do as yourself as a leader and your optimism, getting that message out to the others that might have some other stresses in their life, what advice would you give? Or what's Les's power thought of the day that he might brighten someone up for thinking a little bit differently than doom and gloom and we're all done here?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for calling me an optimist, because that's coming from the king of optimism. You are it. I think your whole listening audience would love to just get a little bit spill over from your optimism into our beings. And maybe perhaps that's what you gave us when you came and visited in May of last year. I think our folks walked away just beaming from that encounter. So I'm guessing it was. Here's the way I look at it. I think realistically, we're a mission-driven company. We're here for a purpose. Sure, we need to make money so we can continue in business. And ultimately, we're capitalists. That's what we're doing this for. But in life, I say in general, whether it's business or otherwise, we're all put on this planet for just one purpose. And that's to make a positive impact that when we leave, it's a little better than when we got here. Mm-hmm. And so I just say to my team, you know what, guys, this is our job. This is what we need to do. We have a job to do, and our job is to make the world a little bit better. And if we can do it, we get to play again. And that's that means a lot these days. It's also true that people are pretty happy to be in an industry that's not shutting down. So, I mean, they could be working for a restaurant today, and we think about it all the time, what the impact is on those people. And that impact is far more dire than any impact on us. So to a large degree, we as a company feel like we're privileged. And because we have that privilege, we need to take advantage of it and give back as much as we possibly can.
Yeah, well said. And you know, the biggest thing that I take away with friends and leaders like yourself is you've positioned and put yourself in places where there's purpose. You know, you're not in business with places where there isn't purpose, where you can't say it with our great articulation without having a cheat sheet in front of you or anything else. It's really refreshing. And I think more people, when all this stuff is all said and done, I think more people will probably look to search and find their purpose. So, you know, before I forget about this, how do people get a hold of you, or how do people get a hold of the people they need to? I'm going to go ahead and send my request, because I know I got some x-rays coming up, follow-ups with Chance. So I'm going to take advantage of that free patient offer. But how does everybody else get a hold of be able to sign up for that?
Yeah, there are a couple of ways you can do it. First is you can share this podcast, because it'll be resounding with how to get in touch with us. But the specifics are, if you send an email, send it to sales@purview.net.
Okay.
Somebody will field that. We'll get back to you as quickly as possible, probably 24 hours a day. That's what we've been doing the last couple of days. And we'll respond to you, and we'll provide you with how to get there. The patient sharing facility is actually right on the front page of the website. So if you go on purview.net, you'll find that there. And then if you want to just use the old telephone, you can call us at 1-800-501-1537. Probably dial, I think it's 1 for sales, but if you dial support, somebody will help you there as well.
Awesome. And that's Purview, Purview.
That is correct. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, Les, I can't thank you enough for coming on here. I can't thank you enough for being such an awesome human and friend to me and making this offer. We're hearing so much about telemedicine and telehealth and social distancing, and I called it medical distancing in a post. I think that this is something that obviously is going to be well utilized in the future, but for you to be able to give it to people for free right now while we're going through these unprecedented times is just a stand up by Purview. What you guys are doing, I'll put this out all over the place. And got any parting words? Or otherwise, we can get back to our Sundays. How's Tuck doing, by the way?
Tucker's doing great, and he misses you. That's my dog.
Yeah.
So here's what I'd say as parting words. We're not alone. So Purview's a pretty cool company, and we're there for a reason. But there are big name pharmaceutical companies and that are donating drugs, and suppliers donating masks and gowns and consumables. So it's not just us. This is really, truly the world coming together. I feel it. And I think if we get through this, well, when we get through this, I'm confident that we will, we're going to come out the other end. And I'm hoping, I'm praying that we're a more cohesive and maybe even a kinder planet than we were on the way in.
Yeah, 100%. Couldn't agree more. And I'm hopeful. I've talked to a number of folks a lot today about that, and I believe that with the right mindset and to just realize that we're all in this together, this is something truly, when you look at everything else historically, this is the first something that is absolutely global. I mean, you made a comment to me about it's a small world. Coca-Cola in the 60s tagline, or Disney World's "It's a small world." The world really is getting smaller by the day, but this is the first time that this is the same thing. Everyone globally is being impacted by it in some capacity. And I really do believe this will make us stronger. We will find ways to be innovative and creative. As I shared with you, I've had every speaking engagement and every revenue generating opportunity because everything I did was in person, collapsed in the last 2 weeks until July. And it could go further. And things that I said I would never do, like do a podcast on video like I'm doing right now, or potentially monetize my podcast, or find other revenue streams or ways to do things would be awesome. I got to think about those things. And you know something? I probably should have thought about them 2 years ago. I just couldn't get out of my own way and how I was thinking. So thinking different, doing different, and being stronger, I think we're all going to end up on the better side of things when this is all said and done. So I can't thank you enough, my friend. You know, when you talk about sleepless nights, your text came in at 3:43 this morning to confirm this for today and telling me that you'd make time for me. So I know you weren't sleeping. I wasn't sleeping that well myself. But yeah, let's just keep going. And if there's anything Be Awesome can do for Purview, we're always in your corner, my friend. And hope you get to enjoy a little bit of what's left of your Sunday.
Great. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for spreading this message.
Anytime, my friend.